He didn't expect anyone to notice him. To most, he was just an elderly man stocking shelves at a Michigan grocery store, wearing a simple blue vest. But this week, 88-year-old Army veteran Ed Bambas became the center of one of the most emotional and unexpected viral stories of the year. It all started with a stranger walking into the store and asking him a simple question: "Would you mind sharing your story?" That moment changed everything. Ed had no idea that the man speaking to him, Australian influencer Samuel Weidenhofer, had millions of followers and a reputation for helping people in need. All Ed knew was that someone cared enough to ask why an 88-year-old veteran was working full-time at a Myers store, quietly stocking groceries. Ed answered honestly. He told Samuel that he had retired back in 1999, thinking his life was finally easing into a peaceful chapter. But in 2012, the company he worked for went bankrupt. Just like that, his pension vanished. The security he had built over decades disappeared overnight. At that very same time, his wife, his partner, his best friend, was seriously ill. Losing his pension meant losing her health insurance too. He said all of this softly, almost like he didn't want to trouble anyone with the truth. When he spoke about her, his voice cracked. He explained how the company's collapse wiped out everything except for the last $10,000 of his life insurance policy. To survive, he had to sell his house and every piece of property he owned. He and his wife got through those difficult years together, but the cost was enormous. When she passed away 7 years ago, Ed was left with grief, debt, and no financial safety net. He had to start over at an age when most people are slowing down. In the video, when Samuel asked if he'd been struggling, Ed's quiet reply said everything: "I don't have enough income." Then he wiped his eyes. Samuel immediately told him he had nothing to apologize for. He asked if he could share Ed's story online to try to help him retire. Ed nodded. A few hours later, the video exploded. Millions watched this gentle, humble veteran struggle to hold back tears as he explained why he still had to work. And thousands of people, many of them strangers, started donating. By the next morning, the GoFundMe created for him had already crossed $1 million. By the end of the day, it passed 1.5 million, and it's still growing. What makes the story even more emotional is that Ed doesn't know how much money has been raised. He doesn't use the internet. His son Michael told reporters that his dad has no idea it's reached life-changing levels. All he knows is that a fundraiser exists. When the moment comes to reveal it to him, it will likely be one of the biggest surprises of his life. Michael explained how much his father has been through. After caring for his wife for nearly a decade, Ed was left completely lost. He didn't know how to fill his days or what his purpose was anymore. With medical bills stacking up, he had no choice but to look for work. For the last 5 years, he's been working at Meijer, smiling at customers, pushing carts, stocking shelves, chatting with kids, and doing everything he can to make ends meet. His coworkers describe him as warm and kind. The company responded by offering him lifetime financial planning assistance, helping him manage the donations wisely so he can finally live without fear of running out of money. And that is what makes this story so powerful. This isn't just about money. It's about giving an elderly man his dignity back. It's about giving him freedom. It's about restoring something that was unfairly taken from him more than a decade ago. Ed served his country. He worked his entire life. He took care of his wife until her final days. And still, he ended up stocking shelves at 88 because he didn't have any other choice. When viewers heard his story, their hearts broke. Not because he complained, he didn't. Not because he asked for help, he never did. But because an entire generation saw their parents, their grandparents, and even their future selves in his eyes. People donated because they wanted him to rest. They wanted him to finally breathe. They wanted him to experience joy again, not just survival. His son said that the last few days have been overwhelming. Messages have poured in from around the world. Family, friends, and strangers all reached out to say they saw the video and were moved by his father's honesty. Michael said he is grateful beyond words, and that his dad will finally be able to start living and doing things for himself. After so many years of loss and sacrifice, Ed can finally think about a life that doesn't revolve around financial fear. There is something deeply hopeful about watching the internet come together for someone who never expected anything from anyone. In a world full of noise and outrage, a quiet conversation in a grocery store reminded millions of people what kindness looks like. It reminded them that generosity still exists, and it showed that sometimes all a person needs is for someone to listen. Soon, Ed will be told the real number. Soon he'll find out that the world didn't just hear his story, they responded with love. Soon he'll learn that people who have never met him wanted him to retire with comfort, peace, and dignity. And when that moment comes, it may become the most emotional update of the year. For more breaking updates, remember to follow Xplained daily. Would you help a stranger this way if you had the chance?